coming up with I've been writing a bunch of poetry for a long, long time, and oftentimes it's been about women, relationships or love or things that's like not quite going as well as it, I guess, I've been hoping for. But I came up with this concept a couple of days ago to try to self-publish a book of poetry that has all of these different, I can't even explain it. Let's see if I can wrap my head around this for a second. I haven't spoken this out loud yet.
I love the idea of publishing a book or something like that with like poetry in it.
Yeah, that's.
You could even do it with like photography in it as well.
And it could be like tie in with the comic books of what we were talking about.
Photos of people that like convey whatever the emotion is about. It could also be a landscape that whatever that type of like melancholy is.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential to it, and especially for what it is that we're hoping to do with MT Theater specifically, of having, you know, work that exists, online work that exists in like a hard copy in like the physical sense, and then also work that can exist in many different disciplines. So yes, it's writing, it's poetry, yes, it's also printmaking and photography and design, but could you also incorporate things like time or space or something for like theater? So
I have a bunch of sad haikus I can let you use.
Really? Do you actually?
Yeah.
Or are you just joking?
No, I have something.
And like actual haikus, like 575? Yeah. But I was wanting to make something that
Does no one believe me when I say this?
Yeah. I was like, do you know what a haiku is? It's not just shoelaces, Craig. There's something more.
Damn it,
Yeah.
haiku.
Yeah. So I was wanting to make a book. So how this relates to the theater piece. So imagine if we had the piece of theater in like Sarah and I's room, and we had, you know, it was following like a writer. But if you had the immersive experience was that the course of the play would take place in the bedroom. So you would have the artist walk through the apartment, you'd go into the room, you would have the actor be sitting there, you'd have, you know, all of this stuff like taped up to the wall, you know, or pinned up on a string or something, you know, all throughout the space. And then, you know, the piece revolves around trying to explain or to make this book. So you could say, you know, like you could start wherever, starting with the first page of the book, or maybe that there's something that the character is stuck on that they're not able to figure out, and the second person, the audience member that's coming into the space, is there to help, you know, facilitate that or workshop it. And that the two of you would be able to suss out something and make something that is in and of itself is art, but then when you frame it in sort of a performance space or aspect, performative nature, that it becomes something more than just itself. And you know, I imagine this is something that takes quite a lot of time. It's over 2 hours or so, something that could exist for a long time. It could be an hour, it could be 30 minutes, but the idea that the more that you live in it, the more attached that you are to the work, because then you could have, you know, just think about it, like you would have all of these different, and this is the stuff that I've just been typing, so this is stuff, but
would you have any interest in adapting it to film as well? Because as soon as you mentioned the project being in your room, I had some ideas, but I don't want to run on your idea.
Oh no, I think it could exist with it as a piece of film itself. I think that it could, you know, that might even be something that you could do. You could incorporate even projections to it for the live performance. I mean, it's like, sure, it's all just all ready to be used, but that you would have, you know, imagine each poem is a portrait to to where if you look at it and you could say, oh, so that right there we found, that was at a Goodwill. We got it for $10. We just found it in LA. That was a piece that my mom gave to me. She really likes Toulouse-Lautrec. He was one of her favorite artists when she was in school and college. And so that's something that she collected, same with those two pieces. That piece we got somewhere on the other side of Flowers. That was found somewhere in Nashville.
I think I was there for that.
That was bought in a yard sale in Nashville. You know, so each poem exists just like that in the physical space. That you have something that you can look at and you can say, oh, I wrote that in the West End, Chicago, the character. This was what was going on. So let's see, so that would have been February 8th, February 2016. So I was up in Chicago doing auditions for grad school or something. But then you devise that for the character. So then you could have each of these different pieces, and you can come up with some sort of, you know, story that comes as a result of that, and you point to all these different things. So if the audience member goes up and they start looking at one more closely, it's like you don't really know where the piece is going to go, but you know, just like in Bog, but you know all of the things that could happen, and so as long as you have like a really good understanding of, you know, the story and where it is that you need to go and how it's ultimately going to end, that you can, it's almost like heightened improv throughout the whole scene or throughout the whole piece.
So it wouldn't be in the text you've written?
Well, no, I think that it could be in
Sure.
the same way of like, you know, it's in the styling
It's more
of
of
the
informing
comedian.
it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's it's like magic, or like I don't know, like you might have, it might be a traditional text, or it might be like a traditional play, and you have huge bodies of
Magic should be it.
tech.
You know who involved?
So you get, you know, you might have a monologue memorized for the set of instructions, which is, for the book, the idea is if you were to have it, if you find something that you read that's nice, take a pair of scissors, cut it out, crumple it up into a tiny little ball, and you take a hand trowel, go outside, find a plot of dirt, dig, bury it, walk away. That's like the idea. And then there's on the next page, there's a piece. It's a piece of paper like that that says, there's the poem, and it's missing a bit. It's going to be very, whatever. So it's involved. So you might have a monologue that, you know, is completely memorized about, you know, talking about, you know, you're adding more detail. You're making something. You're always contributing. You're making something more beautiful. You're revealing something. You're, you know, whatever. But you might not even get to that monologue if it's something that doesn't come up organically in the life of the room. That it's not something that you don't. It's not like you have, you know, 5 minutes in, then you say that monologue about this. It's not as orchestrated as that. It's
Nice.
all something that you could have 70 different things that you could speak about at any one point. But the fact that it's determined on the audience member, and when they come into the space, that, okay, you're gonna hit number 1, but then, oh shit, you need like the 40th thing, or you need the 36th, or the, you know, whatever, to make it absolutely right for each of the audience members that come into the space.
Yeah.
Something that's entirely unique and wholly different. So
Like-
it's not like the same, you know. So it wouldn't be the same in Bog of Cats,
Yeah.
or as Bog of Cats. It would be a little bit more improvisational.
I like the idea.
I like the idea a lot too. And I think it could easily transition from the here to like a set.
A found thing.
Or like a found place as well. I mean, it could be like someplace like the theater space of a bongo.
Mhm.
It could really
Yeah.
fit. It's anywhere that's like
Yeah.
feels like a loft, feels
Yeah.
like a found space, but it's actually a performance space.
Yeah.
And you can fill it. I like the idea of all the letters everywhere. Sort of like it makes me think of like I think you said the bog,
Yeah, yeah.
bog trough.
Yeah.
the death trough of
Yeah.
Bond that had all.
And that's exactly the idea, is that it is what it is, but if you look at it closer, there's more to it. And then the added, if you understand why that is or why it became that way, it becomes even more important. So it just feeds and feeds and feeds.
This makes me think so much of video games. Does it make you think of that? Because it's like
a choose your own destiny type.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like an open world. It's like theater right now is like Mario Brothers, and you just do it the one way, and
Right.
run across the screen. And it's like, if you do immersive theater, it's like playing like Skyrim or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Because you can just open doors and you can look in drawers, and it's just, there's so much
Right.
more to see. It's just like,
Yeah.
it just makes more sense.
My question is, how do you see the actors as more of an audience member or more of where do you see the actors fitting? Like, are they the writers of these pieces and they're informing the audience throughout, or do you see them just living in the space?
I would think you would need the author of the stuff to be a character, even if it's not necessarily quote unquote you.
Yes.
And then I would think you would want to have the girl, even if she doesn't say anything, maybe there. And then I think it'd be really interesting, or it'd be really interesting if the audience member is used as quote unquote the girl at the end and something is directed at them.
Right.
And they don't know, they can infer from the words spoken to them that it's the girl.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's about multiple women, multiple relationships. It can be
Yeah.
applicable to different things. So if you have multiple audience members in there, you could use them for different people. Not in like an invasive way, but in a way where like if they were to sit back and be like, what did I just experience? They could maybe infer that that was what was happening.
Yeah, and I guess, that's all, those things all scan from a technical
But if that's not what you want,
aspect.
then
No, well, I think there's benefit to it. I think that the overarching goal of the piece, it's kind of cynic, but like I would want the audience member to fall in love with the actor, and I would want the actor to fall in love with the audience member.
okay.
So that
I have so many ideas for this film.
yeah,
And I think that you have like great insight into making an immersive theater piece. But I
Yeah.
really think you can do both.
yeah, I think so. I think so too, and I think it could definitely exist as both.
Yeah.
But I think, like, to me, there's just not. There's so. Hold on, let me like unscramble it for a second. You see it all the time, and it's one of the reasons why people are so enamored with celebrity or with even people that are seen on platforms, is that everyone loves Jennifer Lawrence because of the possibility or the feelings that they get when they watch a film like Silver Linings Playbook, that they're falling in love with somebody like that, or Bradley Cooper, or Chris Pratt, or anybody else. In my mind, Garden State, it's like you wish that was your relationship. You see yourself as Andrew Largeman, and that you want to be falling in love with a girl who listens to the Shins and who's weird and quirky and zany. So to play on that is like the theme of the piece, is like to create a space that you feel as though like all of the conditions are perfect to fall in love with somebody. You have, a room with nice lighting and books and a desk and a bed and anything that you could want.
Right. There's a certain sort of like intimacy in an innocent
that
way.
it's safe.
Not
Yes,
like,
and
not
it's
like
not. And it's not.
yeah.
It's not supposed to be sexual. It's not supposed to be skeevy. It's not supposed to be sleazy or dirty at all.
Like in Garden State when
Yeah.
you go up to her room.
Yeah.
And it's like they're in her room, but it's not.
It's never gonna. Yeah, and it's never going to amount to anything sexual, but it's the things. It's the possibility of the fact that it could happen.
Right.
Because of where it is that it's happening.
Right.
Not at all based on anything that's going on between
Right,
the
nothing.
conversation. It's not informing anything. I mean, it might initially, but it's it's a very small thing to. So that's the idea for the piece, is that if you bring somebody in, especially in a one-on-one setting, and you bring them into a bedroom, like what would that look like? And you had, a record player, and you had music, and you had, lights, and you had food or something to drink or eat, or you had a bed or like clothes to I'm seriously thinking about like how immersive, like honestly, it could be like living inside of somebody else's life. You could do things as crazy as, pulling open drawers and like having like clothes for them to wear.
Well, I was thinking like you have clothes on the bed where they need to sit. Just be like, hey, please tidy this up so you can sit. They fold the clothes, put them to the side, sit down.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be literally anything from, the time, and all of that would be informed by the relationship between the audience member and the performer. And once that's established, and once we know kind of like the overarching where the story is going to go, and you have all of those offshoots that are built into the narrative, the overarching narrative of the story, then it's a matter of just going in and finding this, it's like providing the perspective or the lens over what it is that's going through it. So everything as a result is going to be informed, or, the light is going to be refracted based on it passing through it.
No, I just think it's a beautiful, you want it to feel like just that and I love the idea of the perfect room, just the invitation of that. There are just some places, it's almost like 1642, like that soft lighting, that warm feel. You just feel like you can sit down and relax and see something beautiful for what it is. What do you think about, I know we were talking about this, informing stuff, getting more context to inform a piece. What would you think about doing something where they come in, they sit down, we show them something that is a film that has the actual written poems already done, maybe with original music, maybe with something that informs them a little bit of this world they're stepping into. It's only like a 5-minute thing, then they go in, or you're just like, man.
No, I think that would be super cool, and you could even, it would be interesting to get...
Even if the film was in the room, and then they go into the room.
Right. Well, it's something that you could projector throw, but you could have, like, what if the book in its entirety was finished and it was sitting on the coffee table? So the audience member comes in, you sit them down on the couch, it's the only thing that's in front of them, title, Carbon or whatever, and then they look at it and they start with, you said it yourself that it was time for me to write something of my own. I'm not sure if this is what you had in mind or what even I had in mind before any of this even came about, but I wrote this myself and I wrote it for me, and a lot of it was about you, so in a way you made a lot of this too, and I just want you to see it. Most of this is trash, but I hope that you find at least a small piece of something, and then it walks you through it. It's like if you find, it's an invitation, it's to come closer, but by the Bog of Cats, it's like making, you can spell it out for them. You can say what you're about to experience is going to be incredibly intimate. Nothing that the actor is, it's not their intention to make you feel uncomfortable at all in any way.
Right.
Their only purpose is to better serve the story as it exists. If there's anything that you find uncomfortable, simply respond with, no, or I don't want it, whatever.
Yeah.
You build the whole world before they go into it. You can have the piece or a collection of poems. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but you could have it being performed or read aloud, or even just like recordings of it. Who knows? You could even go as deep as, recording something and pressing it on vinyl. Who really knows how? It's just all open to what it is that the world that we want to build.
I was already totally thinking that it'd be really interesting to have it used in like a musical form or a recorded spoken word form, and I think we could use. I would be really interested to see if Sarah would be interested in doing any like the musical stuff, because I know she's got a lot of talent for like songwriting and that type of stuff, and you're musically inclined as well. Maybe we could get you in there helping out. I can't play anything very well, so can't do anything with that. Yeah, I think that's dope. I think this has a lot of potential to be a really good one to start off with.
Yeah, and I think it offers quite a bit of potential in terms of utilizing all of the things that we've already built in terms of the
That's what I was
structure.
thinking. Is it seems like
So that
it's
you
just
could-
like putting the Lincoln Logs together.
That you could write, like, all of this could be typed out and put into different blog posts, every single one. Each one, you could number it, you have the index, you have the book in its entirety. It could even, InDesign now with Adobe Suites does a lot of stuff to where you can publish stuff online, and it's even easier to incorporate elements of design work into something in a digital platform to where people can look at it and they can see for themselves and say, oh, I know it's a magazine. I get that. I know what it is in my head, and I see, the pages, the pictures, all that stuff.
Well,
it can incorporate.
Yeah. What we should do, I like that. Do you think that would just be easy to do? Like, it wouldn't be that hard? The lookbook and everything you were just talking about?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it would be difficult at all. I think the hardest part with anything as it pertains to this project specifically would have to do with the manufacturing of
Whatever the physical thing is.
Yeah,
Okay.
publishing the magazine or the book, producing a record or a spoken word piece, or recording a film or any of that. I think that's the hardest part.
But what if we, instead of a record, what if we got like a tape recorder?
That
And
would
it was
actually
just
be pretty
sitting here, and then like they don't ever have to play it. But if they take the initiative too, it's something. That would be so
That'd be
cool.
very interesting. Yeah.
Michael, can we go to Kinko's and I get a copy of all of that? What'd you say? Or do you have them in a PDF? How much does a copy cost at Kinko's? 10 cents? Not a lot?
Maybe 7 cents a page, perhaps a dime.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be great. Because if I could get a copy and you had a copy, we could sit down at some point and try and go through it thematically. Writing out themes for each poem, what they fit, and then we could piece them all together in a way that could work the narrative perfect.
There it is.
Wonderful. See, already happened. But you know what I mean? Like, we'll go through Carly Rae Jepsen style and write out themes for every single poem. Then we can piece it together in a way that narratively fits best.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
the choice. If they would even play it. Just put two things on the table.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'll be like, do you want any water?
And then in terms of that, I mean, you open up the possibility of, you can incorporate the blog online. You can incorporate, you could make a whole page for it to where, the audience member could either sit down and read all of this stuff together. I mean, you're looking at you could even get it so far as to be blogging through using the voice of the actual character.
I think
and
all
then,
we have
creating something based on. I mean, that's how deep do you want to go?
Right.
Seriously.
No, I think it's going to be, this is a ton of potential. I think the one thing we have to focus on is just getting it to be a narrative. So beginning, middle, end.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you didn't write it with that in mind, but I'm sure there's something in there
Well-
that can easily be fit to that because you have so much there. And also that's kind of how relationships are. Like they start, there's the middle, the end. So I think that'll be an easy way to make that a narrative. I think all of the stuff in here, I mean, we've got 4 creative people already in this apartment. It'd be super easy. Stuff like the tape recorder, stuff like the having to put the room together when you come in. I think that would be really. That's not going to be a challenge.
No, I mean, the way that it's structured now is that there's the foreword, there's the instructions to the piece, and then there are different parts. So it's 5 of them for 5 different people, and they're poems about. I mean, it's varied. It just depends on where you are in the book, but some of this stuff was written about a certain person, some of other stuff was written about other people.
Sure.
So there's a lot of stuff there, and what I've been doing recently is I've been going through each of these books and just typing out everything by hand, you know, what it is that has already been written, and then just trying to go through and make, you know, like this is the first page of the book, and then this is the instructions, and then this poem starts part 1, and then just like
Perfect.
laying it all out storyboard style, and then we could get to the bottom of it, and we could say, you know, okay, so part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, are they all in play? Are we only focusing on one person? Or again, it's like all meaning that is yet to be established or defined, but it all derives from the way that the piece is structured, and more specifically how it is that you want the audience member to react to that piece.
No, I can't wait to get into that.
Yeah.
I just gotta get a copy. We'll sit down and we will crank it out over a bottle of wine in 5 hours. But I think that's awesome.
I think it could be easy to set up too, more as long as you follow the rubric of the written text, and you have, you know, once it's all put out in a hard copy, start to finish, or a digital format or something, that everything else could be filled in quite easily, and you just take it slice by slice and you say, okay, well, what can we do for this poem, or what can we do for this page, or what do we need for this moment, or this whatever. It's just providing enough of the limitations that are provided by something that has already been created, and then trying to fill in something more, or layer something on top of it, or add or contribute.
That's dope. I think that could easily be our first big thing. I think it could be our first, like, whatever. I mean, because it can be as small or as large as you want, but I think, like, if we all put some effort into it, it can really, like you know what you say, like, you pay $10, $5, whatever, for a $50, $75, $100 experience. And I think easily between the three of us and our experiences with this already, and just the artistic way we all have collaborated, I think we can easily, like, enrich this to something pretty special.
Yeah, and then you're also looking at the possibility of folding stuff in, like GoPro footage, rehearsal footage, and all that kind of stuff, because it is so heavy.
Yeah.
And then you have, you know, like this stuff is like, this could technically be like a first production meeting for it, which, you know. Yeah. Or, you know, coming up with, you know, you could have a video on how it is that we record the, like, how is that done? Like, what's the story behind it? Do we go somewhere to record? Is
there's so much to document this.
That it's all rolling, and as long as you know, keep organize all the stuff that you've done to make it, that stuff can all be used as bonus footage material, things for Patreon or whatever else.
Can I tell you how I see the film? Because I already have.
Yeah, what's your image, or what's your idea?
So we have 5 girls. So I want there to be 5 different shots or 5 different angles we use, and I want it all to be done in the room, like you said. So I want us to have the writer's desk wall, so that wall, closet, the desk, finally the bed is 4th, and then 5th it would go up to the actual actor's face, and that would be addressed to the 5th person, who could be our audience, our audience person, and they will feel it because it'll be the first time when they're watching this film that the person looks right into the camera. So I think it would be interesting. We have the 5 different themes for the 5 different women. You have like a wonder of just maybe the person writing at the desk, or something where we're like focusing on, there's just like beautiful images on the wall, or whatever there is. And then there's 1 or 2, maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes, probably only a minute, honestly, on each person. So on each shot. So we have we have a minute on the wall with the desk, and then we have a minute on the closet, which is suggestive of this life that is shared together, these things that are together. We have girl clothes and we have guy clothes, but there's no girl in the room. And then we go to this girl desk that's empty. It tells you more about like this woman and like what was going on. Is it the same women? Are there bits and pieces of all the different? Then we switch to the bed. Obviously, that would be a good place to have like one of the more raw, emotional, whatever you feel like has like some of the real like pizzazz in the writing. Whatever we gets like down to like what really is painful and true about like love, we could have that there. And then we swing the camera around to the person's face, and that's the 5th one. And then we're done. Just like 5 minutes, one for each thing. And then what's going on over the course of the film? Is it recorded dialogue? I think it could be recorded voiceover of this. I also think it'd be really cool that if there's ever a poem about another guy in it, we have either Sean or I in there, and like suddenly like you're looking at something else, but in the background there's like someone just there, totally out of place, but we're not focusing on them, but you can't help but focus on them, because why is someone else in this room? Because the room is like this metaphor for the relationship and what should just be between two people. What do you think?
Pretty good. Good.
So yeah, and then I think that could take 5 minutes. Maybe we let the people come into the apartment for like 2 or 3 minutes before then, and that's when they could fuck with opening the book,
Right.
pressing play. I bet you like 9 out of 10 people will open the book and not mess with the recorder.
Yeah.
And then this just plays.
Right. Yeah, and then it also, I had an image of once the character or once the audience member goes into the room, that there's something that's done out here in terms of crew setting something up or changing the space, or there's just a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of potential of just doing something, maybe stringing up more of the, or it could be interesting.
Even
I
if
don't
just
know.
the lights were completely different, maybe it's all candlelight and there's a record on, and they just
Something.
walk out and through this like
Something to where it's like it's like that element that suggests some sort of like magical realism, or if I don't know, if it like if something could be made from their experience and then somehow it's packaged, like what if there was a camera that was feeding live footage to the television and then something was made as a result. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
That's
But-
interesting.
But something that they, because that's another,
Something they can take away from you.
yeah, and that's like another theme. Like that's another part of that's so important to me, anyways, is that there's something so beautiful about falling in love, but oftentimes no emphasis is placed on that after the fact if it doesn't work out, because you're no longer together. But in a perfect world, what was felt or what was experienced or what was shared between two people that's really special and sacred, that should never change based on the things that are surrounding it or things that happen after it. It's a flower is still beautiful if it's like that, or if it's dried up like that. It
Right.
shouldn't change in accordance to the passage of time.
mm-hmm.
So how that would tie into the piece in the end is that somehow whatever happens in the room is used, something is made from it, and that the audience member sees what it was that it was made as a result. And that could even be something, like if you're wanting to get really, really tricky with this sort of immersive technological side of things, maybe something could be made and then sent to them, and that's like their final, like that's the end of the show, that you get their email or you get their text, or even, you could even fold in what we were talking about with the podcast, what was that, a few nights ago. Maybe you could send something on Snapchat, or you could post something to them or send it directly on Instagram.
Sure.
Something that's meaningful and wonderful.
That would be cool.
That kind of just puts a nice little ribbon on top, and it binds the whole thing up together, and that's the end. It could be the character saying goodbye to them, or
Something like
thanking
that.
them, or using.
Do you want the book to be like a photo book, or do you want it to be like, because it could be like something that's like what you have now, handwritten with Polaroids in between pages, flower petal, a note, song lyrics. Maybe just like we just make sure it's written to the point where you can really read it well, or do you
Yeah.
want it to be something more like this?
Yeah, this is actually the book that I told you guys that I was
Sure.
reading on the. So this is the parts we've got. So this one has 4 different parts: hurting, loving, breaking, and healing. But then it has the poems, and then it has sketches just in between, just little drawings that's evocative of what it is that the poem is about.
That'll be sad.
Simple, just super, super simple. And that's kind of Now, granted, I did a lot of this stuff before I read this, so I wasn't trying to like directly hack any of it. But you know, there were, and I'm not a super great artist by any means, but it would be, I would like to take it to somebody and illustrate it, and have them illustrate it to where, you know, they come up with just simple drawings like that we're able to put into the piece, the book, and then have it exist just like that. Like it is a standalone piece that you could pick up and read, or you could find it at a bookstore, or you could find it in a library or in a thrift store. You could find it anywhere, and if you showed it to somebody, they would think that it was just another piece of poetry and just another collection of poems written by somebody that they've never heard about. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because I think that's another important thing, at least the way that I envision the work that's being made in Empty Theater, that everything is good enough to be standalone. Everything should be able to exist without any context whatsoever. Nobody should have to hear this conversation to be excited about the work that this could eventually become. And that goes for anything.
For that.
Yeah, that the video, that the film makes sense in and of itself. It adds to the story quite a bit and it contributes, but that you should be able to watch it and appreciate it for what it is. Not missing a vital piece of the puzzle.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like it too.
I think it would be super easy to document, super easy to make.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like, it'll take a ton of hard work, but at least it doesn't have to be somewhere other than here. At least it doesn't have to be like something we don't know about and something outside
I'm
of our
also
control.
sure that even the things that we find to be the most pricey and difficult, I think we can stretch and find ways to do it.
Right.
People can help.
It would be way more affordable to do a show like this in-house.
I mean, how quick was the realization that we could use a recorder that would work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's like something between the video and the music that's like, and the book itself.
sure.
There's
Yeah.
ways to,
It can be very, you know, we can change, you know, there's stuff that we could add to, I mean, we could make the character a musician. We could say, you know, that these are all songs, or, you
What
know.
if they're musicians who used to date, but they've broken up? Now they're separating the rights.
I like that.
I like it too.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. No, I like this. I think this should be our first major focus. I think if we're going to do anything else small in the meantime, we can. Like the thing I wrote last night, a little bit of refinement on it could easily be done in like a weekend or like 10 hours total. But I think this should be our first like big focus.
I think it hits all the points that you guys wanted to hit.
So I guess we just have to figure out the narrative, characters, who's doing what. But I think first off, it's just making it into a narrative.
So really, yeah, I mean, this is like if we had to define it, it's in a pre-production stage. So the script is still being written, so we need to finalize.
Well, the script is being organized. I think it's mostly written.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we got to figure out
Well,
thematic.
there are also things that could there are things that might be subject to change.
Sure.
Like, so it hasn't been finalized yet, even though it's not like it's original content, or it's lacking original content, or it's lacking anything.
Right.
It's just like, if I have to change certain things about it, it's still not a finalized script.
Sure.
So just need to finalize it, figure out exactly what you're saying about the narrative, and then putting it together in a comprehensive hard copy. And then once we finalize that script, everything that comes as a result of that is a rehearsal process. So, you know, you start first page, second page, third page, going on and generating content for each of it.
and it should be. I don't think it's gonna be as hard as. I don't think it's gonna be too hard to put it together. I think it's gonna take a while, but I don't think it'll be hard once we like set it all out. We really
No,
look
because
through
it follows a formula.
Exactly, and we'll just be like, hey, where do we want this to start? Where do we want it to end? And then we'll just take puzzle pieces and connect them with yarn.
Right, and then the biggest thing that I want to focus on, I want it to always relate back to what is the audience's experience going to be. What are if we start from they walk into the door after buying a ticket or after knowing that they're about to see a piece of theater, what happens? The three things, great. What do we need to get that checked off of the list? What do we need to do for the short film to check that off the list? What do we need to do about the book to check that off the list? And then we can move in and say, okay, well, how is it that they get up off of the couch, or how is it that they're brought back into the room? And then what happens? What is it? What's the state? Like, those are all the questions that we need to ask. What does it look like if the bed is completely stripped and that there are sheets and things that need to be put back on? Or what is it if the bed is completely a mess? Or what is it if the bed is clean and made and neat and tidy? What does it look like if there are things that are spread out? Like, those are all, like, that's how we inform the story. And that's how we choose what it is that we do, or explore the possibilities of what could be done. So what's the most powerful choice? What is it that we want to go hand in hand with the audience experience? And then we say, okay, we have 4 options. Well, that one's the most interesting, or that one's the one that lends itself most to what we want to do. So then that's what we do. And then from there, well, what are the next 4, 5, 10 things that could happen? And then just like going through and singling it out. And then just making it known that, the same way that we did with the one-on-ones at Bog, that, it might go a different way if you have an audience member that's like this, or you might need to consider that this might not be, and then just coming up, again, with that choose your own adventure, and just having something that you can.
I think it's going to be easy to direct them where to go. I see we put up lights like the ones you have in your room already out here. We can even use the ones you have, and that's all that's lighting out here, plus a few candles maybe. They come in, the book's on the couch, it has a title like something that would be like, oh, you should read this, this is here. They sit, they read, even if they don't. A few minutes later, the film plays, great. After the film is done, the lights are all plugged through an extension cord into that room. Whoever's playing the actor, you, me, him, unplugs it, the lights go out, there's light coming from there. Maybe music or something. It's inferred. You transfer into the bedroom for the next thing.
Yeah, I'll just step in quick. I like the idea of thinking that nobody has to direct this actor or this audience member to move at their own pace. They move and figure out where they need to go. However, you have to hit towards that versus somebody saying, okay, now let's move into the
Right.
And I also like, just quickly, starting scatterbrain. The other idea that I like that Michael kind of touched on is when they are in the bedroom. I like the idea of there being some type of task that brings them together when they first enter the room, so it doesn't feel like the audience member is separate from the actor. So like the idea of them making the bed together or some type of task that, I don't know, unless you're going through immediate separation, but
it should feel very homey, very familial, or practiced, or something. Yeah.
Did it capture that?
I just was looking at the wave forms and just cracked myself
that's
up.
dope. I think this would be a good place to start. I have to be.
Okay.
I think, so starting from door to bedroom.
And then what happens in the bedroom, each moment, each possibility, and then just coming up with. And it doesn't have to be so specific that you plot out every single thing that could possibly happen, and that's, but if, there's something that should be said about what's to be expected.
Right.
In the way that you group that, it should check all of the other boxes, because at any point somebody could be uncomfortable or turned off. or at any point somebody could be excited, or at any point somebody could be overzealous, or at any point somebody could be unresponsive, so that if you come up with all of those things, those 10 things or 50 things that could happen that the audience member could feel, and then coming up with, then it's just like scales.
Yeah.
It's just like the way that it fits in musically, to where, if your first note is an A, well, then that means that you can only play, you can go to the next note, and that could be another scale, or it could be the same, or it could be different, but it narrows it down very, very quickly. So it starts broad and it goes to a point. Same with, if somebody is, you could have them the whole time just like right there eating out of your hand, and then all of a sudden they like get bumped with something that makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then automatically as a performer, like, because you're, intuitive and you're listening and you're paying attention to your scene partner, the audience member, that you can see, oh, well, this is what I need to do because they're uncomfortable. I need to do something, whatever that may be, to make them more at ease. So if that means sitting them down in front of the typewriter and having them write something themselves while you go off and you sit on a bed and you think about something else, or you do something else, or if you take the attention off of them, then that serves the purpose.
Yeah, the beauty of just having an audience member and how different the experience can be each time for the actor too is really something cool.
So I think, Michael, what I'll do to help us try and get this in a narrative is I'll hook up that printer file and scan it into the iMac. We'll go through them, label them thematically, put them in folders, and then we'll have it kind of in a way where we can look at it and be like, hey, where does this go where? How does this go here? And that should be an easier way to...
I want to do it all by hand. I want to type out every piece, every page with the typewriter. We can scan that stuff in, and we can do the documentation of how, if you want to do it.
But
digitally.
then we'll have a digital folder book that
Right.
can be put on the website.
But we have a hard copy too of.
So I think this is really exciting. We could even do it to where all three of us play the guy.
Yeah.
That way, no one has to do it for like 3 hours straight. If we're lucky enough to get that many people to come in.
Well, but I think with doing one audience member would be really cool to see.
I think this could take off very, very quickly, to where it would be something to where it's like, because if I experience something like that as just as an audience member, I'd be shitting myself.
Well,
I would be so fucking jazzed. I'd be like, Craig, you need to go see the show. Sean, you need to go see the show.
And you know what we should do? We should have it to where it's like it's a $10 ticket, or a $15 ticket, but you get $5 off if you mention the post on social media with like hashtag #theater or something like that to get word of mouth out there. Keep putting it on our profiles.
Yeah, I would even be willing to have people see the show for free in previews if they just post about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
If they just talk about it, or if they write a Facebook post, do an Instagram, do a story, do an Instagram story, whatever. But I'm just thinking of like, if we did something like this for Alex, like somebody who had like a platform and a reach and an ability to like, because he's an artist in his own right, and he gets it, he like understands, like I don't know anything about photography, but I can look at his post and be like, oh yeah, that's really good stuff. That, if we could get somebody like that, anybody like that, to come in and to see and to get it, to have it click, I think that it could go up in smoke just like that. Then people are like, oh man, when I see it, I want to go. I don't like, I heard like you drank wine with somebody.
Yeah.
You got like.
Yeah, I just thought of a really interesting way to get them out of the house. What if they finish in the room, they come out here, and another one of us who isn't playing the guy takes their hand and leads them out? Because it's like they're not with the guy anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like this being within like a new relationship with a new person, and it would almost feel like, I guess to me, if I were the audience member, it might feel a little wrong.
Oh, well, it could be that
You know what I mean? Like
on that,
it feels a little bit like,
yeah.
who is this person?
Well, you
What
could
about-
call them You call them on the phone. That you as Craig, the character, you call after 2 hours or after an hour after it's done, and you say, "Hey, I'm outside. Like, I'm here to pick you up," and you come into the room, or then it's the actor. They know to take the audience member out into the living room, and then you knock at the door and say, "Hey, are you ready for?"
I wish.
Or
I was gonna say this might be a stretch too, but what if there was a knock at the door and the actor said, something that one wants to get the door, and then there's another girl at the door, somebody who we've already planted there or whatever, so that it comes across like whatever the love that they got to at that point.
Right.
Knock knock. There's
You're
another
out of
girl at the
time,
door.
man. Or it's the next. It could be the next audience member.
Right.
Or like the show's over, the song's done,
So
the poem's
your
written.
love is just the love is cut, and then
Yeah.
another person at the door, and you have to step out and
Which
win
is a
those.
beautiful symbol
Yeah.
for how stuff like that is never planned. It just
Right.
kind of ends where it ends.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think this is gonna be easy to just keep building.
Well, there's so
on.
much work, but it's all
It's
stuff
gonna be.
that can be
It's
used.
not gonna be easy, but I think
I think it's going to be overwhelming.
building
until
it will be.
we
Yeah.
chunk it out.
Well, no, that's the first thing. So all we need to do is I need to get this stuff typed out and written. You need to get your stuff on the computer organized so that we get digitally. What the fuck? Right, Jesus. It's like
it grew legs and it was just like.
oh my gosh, it's like a ghost. And then, we get all of the stuff organized on the hard drive for the scans and all of that. And then we start putting it up onto the website as blog posts or whatever. And then we start, we just start figuring it out. We say, okay, well, now that we've got it, well, what's the next thing that we need? Or, when do we start rehearsing for the project? And then we just say, okay, well, again, all through the eyes of the audience member, through the perspective of what it is that they're going to experience, that we just take it from the beginning to the end and we plot it all out.
It's gonna be great.
Every moment, every beat, every page that's one
So where
video.
are the characters at 7:15 a.m.?
Could be anywhere. And also brings up an interesting question of how you want to. When does it start and when does it end?
I think we'll figure that out with the narrative of whatever the script.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, if somebody comes to the door to take them and that's the end, but then, like, they drive, like, how do they get here? Do they drive here and park? Does somebody come and pick them up? Like, is it Uber and, you're going to meet somebody for your first day? Or, like, how is the package presented to
meet
them?
for a drink at
Yeah.
1642.
Yeah.
to the-
And then you walk over here. I mean, seriously, like, what?
I mean, that'd be
It's
really
a-
cool. The only element you're missing there is the introduction. But maybe it'd
Yeah.
be cool to have the introduction somewhere in the middle.
There's a lot to consider with
It's a
that.
bunch.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be answered now. It's just like, because I know, just pulling from stuff that happened with Since I Suppose, it's like, once they finished the actual piece, they were still in the car that drove them back to where they started from. That's still part of the play.
Gosh.
Even though it's not, and it's not written that way, but their reaction, their response, how it is that they're taken back and reintroduced into the world, that's something too that is a very important
It's treated with
responsibility.
care, yeah.
It should be, because you don't want to just be like, oh great, you're fragile and you're a piece of shit and nobody out the door, see you later, go, like, there's gonna be some dog shitting in the fucking
And so.
sidewalk. Yeah, or like somebody, I mean, it's all something that needs to be, so that's it. I'm sure we'll figure it out once it comes to
I like it.
All
I
right.
think it's a good place to start. I don't know if we need to talk about other things.
Oh, I got other ones too. Let's keep it going.
Do you want to talk about them now? What do you?
my idea.
Yeah, what's your idea?
No.
Hey, Sean.
No, that's exactly where we're going.
But you said you really wanted to tell us your plans.
I'm really impressed. That's a good way to go.
Yeah, I think that's what we do.
And those
Okay.
Possibilities.
Yeah, I would love to do. I think we could do smaller stuff with maybe a vignette series.
I don't think we need to.
Well, I mean, no, we don't have to at the same time.
I feel like
I think
yeah,
I think
feel
there's
like this is a huge.
I think like this is
Sure.
the model. This is it's like Mark 1. It's like that everything, like we could do other stuff in the future. We could do the vignettes. We could do, you know, love poems or whatever. But in terms of coming up with the approach of how it is that
Maybe
we
right now
make
we
it,
just put our sights on this.
how we put it up, how it's presented online, how it ties into each other, how we market it, how we sell tickets, how, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
It's like the most. I think it's something that.
Yeah, I think this would be a good.
Not that other things would take away from it. It's like
But we're
No, we're still gonna have to-
we're gonna learn from this. So we
Yeah.
might as well put all of our attention on it and learn as
Right.
much as we can.
because we're still gonna have to. We still wouldn't know how any of that stuff is going to exist, or how we stage it, or how we produce it or anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So since we don't know on this, we just need to figure it out. We need to spend the time.
I agree.
Is there anything else that needs to be said, or should we cut this off?
I think you can cut it off.